What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. This is our prediction show where we are going to talk a little bit about the Hounds and how they're traveling to Sacramento this weekend. I am Mike. Joining me for this one is Justin. Justin, how's your week been so far, bud?
My week's been pretty good. Other than watch the U.S. men lose in the Olympics this morning. That was disappointing. But other than that, it's been great.
Good. Speaking of disappointing, something that we didn't talk about in the reaction show this past week, but I figured I'd bring it up here just because I don't know if I'm wrong. I wasn't actually at the Liverpool game. You and I, we were in the vicinity of the Liverpool game at Akashura Stadium, but we didn't actually go in. I felt like it was a real missed opportunity for the Hounds. I don't know if I told you this, but we were walking around the stadium trying to kill time, and like the Penguins had a table there. Pitt had a table there where they were trying to get people involved in stuff and giving away merch and things like that. And the Hounds, from what I saw, had like nothing. I know that there were multiple Hounds coaches and players that were at the game, but that just felt like a real missed opportunity. And if you looked on like social media and stuff, it was really cool that guys from the Liverpool Academy had come over and were running clinics at Highmark Stadium and with some of the youth players. I thought that was awesome. But it felt like a missed opportunity where if you looked at other USL teams around the league, they're doing like jersey swaps with the head coaches. And it just felt like we were missing that, where we could have really tried to tap into Liverpool fans and Real Betis fans and see if we can make them Riverhounds fans too. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it is one of those things of like, you know, I would kind of understand it if there was an MLS team in Pittsburgh too, and like they were kind of the ones, quote unquote, hosting the game. You know, like if the game's happening in Carolina, it's happening at the Panther Stadium. You know, obviously Charlotte's there. You know, North Carolina may not have a presence there. I get that, and I could go, okay, fine. But when you're the only professional soccer team in Pittsburgh, like you need to show it. Like it would be cool if you'd figure out how to show up to these games and at least, you know, have a table, have a you know, a goal scoring contest. I want to blow up, you know, whatever, and give away Riverhounds keychains and that kind of thing. And that's how you make fans. So it seems like that'd be a simple way to kind of get more people aware of what's happening at Highmark and aware of the team. It is a missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that, you know, as we're continuing to try to work to grow sort of our own audience, you know, we're always looking for every opportunity to try to get in front of somebody. And that just sort of jumped out to me. But oh well, I guess we'll see maybe next time. I guess moving on to this game and sort of our thoughts about what's going to happen here between Pittsburgh and Sacramento. Did an insider show with the crew from the State of Republic podcast, Luis, Sharon, and Jared. They were all fantastic. They had a number of things to say. I encourage you to go listen to that episode. It was comparable in my mind to the one that we did with the guys out in Monterey Bay in terms of sort of the story of building community around the team and the importance of that. But really the highlights, I think, as it relates for our conversation here and trying to come up with predictions, is that Sacramento have sort of been up and down all season, but they are sitting second in the West. They feel that Sacramento are sort of hitting their stride right now, and we're kind of getting them at a bad time, which isn't great. They haven't won a home game in over a month. And also keeping in mind that it's going to be 100 plus degrees, apparently, is what they're predicting at game time, which is not great. It's going to be a late game for us. And they all predicted a Sacramento win. Jared said 2-1, Sharon said 2-0, and Luis said 1-0. So based on all of that, is there anything that jumps out at you from sort of those notes from them?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, we'll talk about my feelings about this game, but I do think it is going to be a tough game going out west and like just the different atmosphere out there and all of that kind of stuff. But we'll see. You know, nothing huge there though.
Yeah, agreed. I did get a chance to catch up with EJ prior to them heading out to the to Sacramento as well. It was a fun little conversation. He talked about how much he enjoys being a pest to defenders, which is great. Did mention that this will be a homecoming for him. He did grow up playing in the Sac Republic Academy, so maybe he'll have a little chip on his shoulder and try to have something to prove there. But again, that was a fun conversation. He talked a little bit about playing in the in 2 different leagues out in Scotland as well, which was kind of cool. So I encourage you to go check that out. But as it relates to this game, I think there's a couple of storylines here. I think the first one is I sort of labeled as old faces. So we mentioned Shane Wheat, Russell Cicerone, Danny Vitiello, all former Hounds that have now gone out west. They've made a name for themselves. Russell Cicerone was out with an injury for a while. He got subbed into their last game, which was against Detroit, and he scored the only goal in that game. So still a goal threat. Danny Vitiello is still Danny Vitiello. The guys from the podcast had said that they attribute a number of their wins purely to Vitiello making saves, especially in open cup runs and things like that. So anything of note on those 3 that you're either looking forward to seeing or not looking forward to seeing?
I mean, I'm definitely not looking forward to seeing Vitiello and probably along with that, Shane Wheat. I mean, Shane had turned into a pretty good defender by the time he ended his time in Pittsburgh. And so, yeah, not looking forward to seeing either one of them. And with our scoring troubles being well known, it's like, can we get one in this game? And you hope so, but it is a hard game to predict that way, and it's a hard game to figure out how we're going to score against a team like that.
Yeah, that's one of my other storylines is have we lost our scoring touch again? I had mentioned in the recap show that the Hounds going from scoring 5 to 3 to 1 just off of a pen makes me a little bit nervous. Do you think this feels like I'm asking you to criticize me. I was gonna say, do you think I'm over exaggerating there? But where do you stand on sort of that thought? Are you at all worried about us potentially losing our scoring touch again?
No, I thought watching the game live, and I haven't gone back and watched the game on TV to see kind of what some of the opportunities look like, but against Loudon, I thought we played fairly well. I didn't feel like we regressed, or I didn't feel like we had and then that being said, in our winless streak, I didn't feel like we had played all that bad, especially in the last probably 4 games of that streak. I didn't feel like we had played bad. We just kind of got unlucky with touches and unlucky with balls not going in the back of the net and different things. And so I'm not real concerned about how we lost our scoring touch. If it starts going to, another game too without, a goal from open play, then I get more concerned. But I think, to the point that we made, I think he is doing a good job being a pest and kind of frustrating defenders. And when you have a guy like that who's kind of roaming around the box, that's where you can get some pens and different things. We have Etu, in the last couple of games, bombing into the box and making guys kind of stick legs out and different things. Like, you're going to get pens, and that is a valid way to score. It's not, you never want to see soft pens or pens that are questionable, but I don't feel like any of the ones we've had have been all that questionable. So that is a valid way to score, but you would like us to see a kind of return to getting goals from open play in this game. I'm not real concerned though. No.
Yeah. One thing to note is that both of our teams have given up some of the fewest goals in the league. We average a little over 1 goal per game, so 1.04 goals. They've only given up 0.75 goals per game. They've given up the fewest in the league. But if you actually look at our past 3 games, we've averaged 3 goals scored. Obviously, that's buffered by sort of the 5-goal outing a few weeks ago, and they're averaging 2 goals scored per game. So this feels like a case where what is it? The unstoppable force meets an immovable object. So we're going to kind of see who can play the best defense and who can generate the most chances for sure.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that they do is they, I was watching some of the Detroit game when Sacramento played them this past week. They play with a flat 3 across the back, and it doesn't appear to be a flat 3 in the same way that we'll go from like a 3 to a 5. They really put a lot of trust in sort of their back 3 defenders, and they tend to have one midfielder sort of sitting in front of them, almost like a diamond. And one way to attack that is potentially with that 2 in Blackstock, get them out wide, maybe stretch that defense a little bit and rush some numbers in the box. And the other thing you can do is, like you said, with EJ being a pest, if you get EJ and Kizza to sort of play in the spaces between those defenders and cause them to second guess runs or to push them back a little bit, then that might make some room for our midfielders to step in and get some chances that way. Do you have any thoughts about sort of attacking a back three like that?
Yeah, and then I think the other thing you do is you get a third runner, and so if you get Griffin or Mertz kind of running in there as well, then your back three is forced to defend 1-on-1. And so, to do that, you've got to be able to possess the ball in the midfield, be able to move the ball around, be able to get that guy free to be able to make that run. But if you're getting kind of 3-on-3 chances all game long, at some point one's got to go in. And then if you have we're having a two or Blackstock kind of running down the lines and then crossing the ball in, if they're 3-on-3 in the center as well, eventually one's going to fall to somebody, and then it's just, can they take advantage of that? So I think, I think you have to defend well in this game. If they're only going to defend the 3, that means they've got 7 on the attack essentially. And so you've got to defend well. But can you spring a counter real quick? Yeah, probably. And so how can you do that and make sure guys are running forward as soon as the ball turns over?
Yeah, agreed. The third storyline that I sort of dug up for this one is just the playoff push. You and I keep talking about, and everyone keeps quoting how you've said, no game is really a must win until it is. We have 13 games left, and we're currently 6 points out of the last playoff spot. What are your thoughts? Do you think that, when do we get into must-win territory, and can we make up ground this week in Sacramento, keeping in mind that we do have to travel to Detroit on Wednesday?
I think so. I think you got to look at this game in context, right? And that's the hardest thing to do as a fan, right? And where we are in the season. But I think I would guess, and I haven't looked at this, but if you looked at most Eastern Conference teams when they have to go to Sacramento, I would guess the results are probably not that good. And so, are you making ground by actually getting a point? Yeah, probably. Over the course of the season and over the course of, when Detroit went out there, and I don't know the results, but if Tampa's going out there and Louisville's going out there and some of these other teams are going out there, are they getting points out there? And the question is, can we get a point out there? And then I think the other thing that I think through is putting it in of, okay, we're going to play Detroit right after that. Honestly, I'd probably rather the 3 points against Detroit as a conference opponent and all that kind of stuff. So do I put a lot of stock in this game of saying, do I want to get blown out? No. Do I want to try to get a draw and come home with a point? Absolutely. But all of that is saying I'd rather get 3 points against Detroit than 3 points against Sacramento, because 3 points against Detroit does more for us in the Eastern Conference standings, which is what matters more. And so do I think once we're under 10 games left in the season, yeah, probably we're going to start saying, hey, these are must win or must draw games. At that point, you got to stop losing. But I think at this point, as long as you keep getting points and don't drop a bunch of points. The other thing to think about that is probably something we hadn't had to think about in a while, when you get down to that, 7, 8, 9 part of the playoff bracket, goal differential becomes a big deal. And so even in this game, if you're going out to Sacramento, just don't get blown out. Don't lose the game 5-0, because that's going to hurt you, big time once we start being oh, we need 3 points and a flip the goal differential, at the season. And I don't want to have to do that. So I think the goal is probably a draw and then beat Detroit, on Wednesday.
Yeah. No Bradley Sample in this one. After his late red card in the last game, the Hounds decided, I guess, not to contest it. So we will not have him. I'm guessing that probably just means, Griffin and Walty from the start, but we will see. Give me your prediction for this one. How do you see this playing out? Any sort of players that you think will impress, or any lineup, any score, anything like that? What do you think is going to happen in this one?
Yeah, I would love to see Kizza. I would love to see EJ start and continue to push and pest and all that kind of stuff. Maybe Sample being out might pull Robbie back into the middle of the field, which is where he likes to be, and could be an exciting thing. Now, I don't know who takes his spot on the right if he's back in the middle of the field, but I do feel like running at a back three, Mertz being in the middle of the field would be a really good thing. And so I would like to see that. I do think the Hounds are in a pretty good spot. I think they, you know, the one draw could be looked at being a little disappointing. It's probably because Laurel and I were there, and we don't ever see our teams win when we travel to see them. So, so that's probably the reason why it was a 1-1 draw. So, could I see them coming back and like beating Sacramento? Sure, because we were there for Loudon. So, so I will predict a 1-1 draw.
I like that shout. Part of me feels like this could be a 0-0 draw, and I would, to your point, I think I'd be happy with the point as long as we can sort of go and get 3 in Detroit. But then that whole thought of have we lost our scoring touch is going to start to creep in as well. So I would love to see a 1-1 draw, and especially if the goal's from run of play, to be like, okay, we haven't lost the scoring touch. Sacramento's a really good team. You know, they typically give up less than a goal per game. So that's indicative of we're getting chances, we're taking our shots, and we're making them count good. So I'd be happy, I think, with a 1-1 draw. If we're able to come out of there with a win, fantastic. But I like the 1-1 draw shout. So
yeah, it is. That is what we like. When I was gonna say, it is interesting when you think about games in context and like the season in context, because if the last 3 results we got had been reversed, you wouldn't be questioning the 1-1 draw at all. Like had we right. broken our scoring streak, got a 1-1 draw, then got a 3-1 win, then got a 5-0 win, you go, oh man, Hounds are a great spot. And it's like, well, just because our 3 results were reversed doesn't mean we've lost our scoring touch. It's just the way soccer works. And so it would be interesting, you know, it'll be interesting what happens in the next 2 games, but hopefully we haven't lost our scoring touch too much.
For sure. That is what we think. Obviously, let us know what you think. The game will be at 10 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. The Steel Army is having a watch party at 9 p.m. at Bulldog Pub in Morningside. Otherwise, Justin, any other sort of final thoughts before we head out of here?
I hate 10 p.m. games. I really do.
Too. Listen, here's a little plug.
I'm a late night person, and I hate it.
Yeah, a plug for our friend John Morrissey and his subscription email service that you can go and find over on X. But he did a piece that went out today, which is Friday, all about this idea of a USL Premier League. So sort of going to a 3-tier system, and whether or not that Premier League could be in the first tier, or first division, or if it would be just sort of sit alongside second division. But he sort of predicted based on media size of each city and potential for stadium size for each city. And he sort of said that, the Hounds would sort of be a shoe-in to be in that Premier League. But when you look at the other teams, there's just a lot of West Coast teams in there. And I'm like, I just don't like these West Coast games. It's too much. Like, just keep them on the East Coast. And, you feel more connected to things and you're not missing out on stuff. So, yeah. Go check that out for sure. But yeah, 10 p.m. is rough for me. I'm old. So thanks everybody for watching and listening. Please subscribe wherever you're getting this, and we will be back with more Hounds content for you very, very